Welcome to the podcast. The Aging Queen. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of The Aging Queen. I have our resident doctor, Kristen. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, Lewis.
So you've been doing a little Happy New Year. First thing, you're our first guest back on the show. We've been gone for a little bit for
Ooh, I'm
Christmas
honored.
break. Yeah, and
Thank
I
you.
wanted to catch up with you. You've been doing some Christmas holiday travel.
Yes, I have been. Yeah, I went to Nepal and Bangkok and Thailand for a few
My
weeks,
goodness.
and then I went to Taiwan for New Year's Eve.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit
Just
about
normal, just
Nepal.
normal jet setting.
Yeah, you're a
Nepal was
globetrotter,
awesome.
you.
Yeah, Nepal was
This is
awesome. I went
this
with,
is where Mount Everest is, right?
yes. Mount Everest is there, the tallest mountain in the world. But we did not hike Mount Everest. You have to,
Mm-hmm.
it's very expensive. You have to get a permit. You have to train for it. We did something much easier. We hiked a different mountain in the Himalayas, but a different mountain that was at 13,500 feet. That was
Wow.
the peak of the mountain. 13,500. So significantly lower than Everest. I actually am going to Google Everest right now. I think it's like 30,000 feet.
My gosh.
Yeah, so Everest
Oh,
is 29,000 and change. So it's like 30,000 feet. And we went to 13,500. So like not even
so a
half of
little less than
Everest.
half. Yeah.
Yeah, a little less than half. But it was a really beautiful hike. It was 4 days long, and you have
Wow.
porters, which
Mm-hmm.
carry. They're like Nepalese people who carry your luggage basically. Because
Mm-hmm.
you have to bring your own sleeping bags. You have to bring. It's cold, so you have to bring like snow gear in case it snows, and rain gear in case it rains. So you have a fair amount of stuff. Um, and so they carry it for you, and then all you have to carry is like a small
Are
day
these
pack. So
Sherpas?
it was like very, very luxurious. No, actually, we learned that. I thought they were Sherpas, but
Mm.
Sherpa is a word for a specific caste in
Mm-hmm.
Nepal. So a Sherpa, it's kind of like an ethnicity almost, like a
Okay.
sub ethnicity. It's a caste, and so you have to be from the Sherpa people to be called, who
Mm.
are like the mountain dwellers, to be a Sherpa. Our guys, they were not from the mountains. Like one was from Kathmandu, from the city. They're just young and they're strong, and they carry your
Mm-hmm.
bags, and so they're called porters, not Sherpas.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
great. I mean,
yeah.
you're living a dream over there. Um, what made you want to do this?
My friend, or actually my boyfriend's friend had wanted to do a hike in the Himalayas, and she didn't want to do it by herself, and so she asked my boyfriend if he would go, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds really cool. Can I come too?" I invited myself. But I've been to Nepal before. I went about 10 years ago as part of like a medical trip. And so I was there
Okay.
for like 3 weeks, but I never hiked in the Himalayas. So it was like one of those things still kind of on the bucket list. And then so when
Mm.
our friend wanted to go, and it's like, and the price for the hike was like $450 for all 4 days. I mean, it's amazing
Wow.
how inexpensive it was. There's like some extra things like you have to add in like tips and things like that for the porters.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so reasonable, and it was amazing. Like you sleep in these tea houses along
Mm-hmm.
the trail, and they're kind of like very primitive hotels, hotels ish. Like, there's no heat, and you sleep
Like Best
in
Westerns?
no, they're like huts. Yeah, they're like huts. Wooden huts with no
You
heat.
said primitive hotel,
Um,
so I'm just kidding.
yeah, yeah.
I love
Oh,
Best
Best
Western.
Western. No, definitely like if a Best Western is like a 3 star, these are like 0.05
Negative
stars.
15. Negative 15 stars.
Negative 15 stars. But they were honestly they felt luxurious. Like even though you're in like a wooden hut and
Yeah.
there's like there's like an outhouse, there's a communal bathroom that's like just a hole in the
Yeah, I
ground.
was gonna ask,
Um
where'd you do your business when you were on the trail? When you weren't at these
um
places, at these, hotel
um
stops?
so on the trail, so like um
You
we
pooped outside.
stopped for lunch on the what?
You pooped outside. Just say it.
So I pooped outside. Well, I didn't have to poop outside. I mean, I definitely have pooped outside. I was a Peace Corps girl and I'm like an avid camper. So pooping outside for me is like no
No
big
big deal.
deal. But this time around, I don't think I had to poop outside because there's like these tea house restaurants that you stop at for lunch,
Oh,
and
great.
then you stop at them for like you'll stop at one between like noon and 2 for a 2 hour long
Mhm.
lunch that they cook you over like an open fire, and then you'll continue your hike, and then you'll be done for the night by like 5:30 p.m. And so like there's pretty frequent stops with these like outhouses.
Okay.
So I was, you were I was able to have to poop when there was like a tea house present,
Mhm.
but I do carry toilet paper and like a plastic bag in my day pack. So if I do have to pee or poop, I can just pee or poop in the woods, and then I'll just put the toilet paper in my little like plastic bag in my day pack, so that I'm not
Oh,
leaving the toilet paper like in the wilderness. So that's how I
right.
do it. You know, it
So
I don't
are
know.
there, like, villages along the trail, or,
Yes,
is
there
it
are.
desolate?
There were like I wish you could see pictures. I wish I could show you pictures. But yeah, there's beautiful like Nepalese little villages along the way.
Mhm.
There's tons of of like temples along the way, tons
Mhm.
and tons. And a lot of them are these like very large white domes with
Mhm.
Buddha's eyes on the top.
Yeah, wow.
And everywhere you look, everywhere there are prayer flags. Like there were prayer flags that they taught like in the middle of the wilderness. There'll be like prayer flags tied to rocks,
Wow.
prayer flags tied to the sides of a tree next to a river. I mean, there were
Mhm.
prayer flags everywhere. Um, and it's beautiful. They're weathered. Like the prayer flags are like those um, strings of like rectangular or like triangular flags, like in the Nepalese
Mhm.
colors, like red, yellow, green. And they get really weathered, but and so they're tattered, but that adds to like the kind of the rustic beauty of them. So it
Mhm.
was really, really, really cool. We saw a
Wow.
yak.
A
Yeah,
yak.
we
A
saw a
yak is
yak.
like
Yep.
a llama, right?
It's more like a buffalo. Like they're big.
Oh.
They're big and
Oh.
yeah, it's more like a buffalo. Um
Oh,
and so
yeah.
like
Domestic yak.
just
You're
Google it.
right, yeah. They're
Mhm.
like hairy buffaloes
Mhm.
with big horns.
Mhm.
And they're
Mhm. Yeah,
and
so
they're
I have a
mountains?
yak blanket. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they roam. Some of them are wild and most of them out there
Mhm.
are domesticated though. So most people like they kind of roam free, but they belong to someone, and then like that person will use it for yak
Recall
milk
them.
because they
Right.
drink yak milk and they do make yak cheese, which is good. Um, and then
There's
yak
also
meat.
knack.
So yeah, it was. What's that?
What are I don't know. It says yaks and knacks. What's a knack?
Knacks? How do you spell knack? N-A-K?
N-A-K. Um,
Hmm.
I don't think that exists. I think I just walked into some
No,
random
I think,
YouTube thing.
yeah. Oh,
um,
isn't,
well,
oh, knacks are female domesticated yaks. So knacks
oh,
are
okay.
female
There you go.
yaks. Who knew?
Makes sense.
Who knew? That's so
Who
funny.
knew? We learn
Um,
something new every day. Well,
I
that's exciting.
know.
I have a little story. I didn't climb
Tell me.
Pikey Peak or Mount Everest, but I was on a little trip with my niece and my aunt, and I took my
Ooh.
doggy. And
Mm-hmm.
we were supposed to go. This is in Europe, in Spain, and the monastery where we wanted to go is on top of a hill. And we arrived via train with the dog, and it was during lunchtime. Not many people out, not many taxis. So we wait for a little bit, and a taxi finally arrives. And the driver says that I usually take my dog with me everywhere, and he's trained as a service dog, but I usually don't have to say that because a lot of these a lot of the infrastructure is already built in that, especially in Europe and on the coast in the U.S. Anyway, they're dog friendly, but this lady
Yeah.
was not. So she said, "You can take the dog, but he has to go in the trunk."
Oh
Now,
no.
it was the
Oh
station
no.
wagon trunk, but it wasn't a good station wagon trunk. It was one of these almost like semi-covered, very
Oh
small.
no.
I don't want to traumatize the poor thing. So my aunt and my niece were they just kind of left the decision up to me. I immediately said no, and she said, "Well, can't take you then." And then I waited for another cab, and the woman the driver said, "You got to go with my colleague. She's got the special car for the dog, which
Oh
apparently is
no.
that nasty old trunk." Uh, I thought it was horrendous that dogs would go back there, um, especially small dogs, because it's actually built for bigger dogs, if that makes sense. It's almost like just a compartment for the dog because the dog's head can stick out. But when you're smaller, you're kind of lost back there. There's nothing to grab onto. You could injure yourself if you're small,
Mm,
and it just makes no damn sense when you can put them on the by your feet if it's a small dog. Mine's a small little dog. Anyway,
yeah, I
um,
see.
so you know what I did? I climbed my own Mount Everest. I said, "You guys take the cab, and I'm going to go walking." And it's 2 kilometers uphill, basically. Like I don't know the degrees, but it was pretty much an incline. It was on top of a small little mountain. You know how they
Wow.
used to place these little palaces? Yeah, I survived it.
Yeah.
I huffed and puffed the entire way. I've done this before 10 years ago, alone, 40 pounds less, and not having to basically, pull a dog, even though this time he was he was he was doing more
Pulling
pulling
you.
than I was. Yeah. So, and he's a pretty strong small dog, so he acted as a sled dog. It actually worked out.
Oh my
But when I
gosh.
got to the yeah, when I got to the top, I needed a moment. Let's just say I was like, "Oh my god." I
Oh my
hate
God, that's
hills.
so
Every friend
funny.
Yeah, every friend that I know knows that I freaking hate hills. I think,
Mm-hmm.
especially in cities, like we can build freaking tunnels. So why can't we just get rid of a hill? Let's flatten the thing. I think they're just ridiculous and unnecessary. But
Oh
I
my
don't
gosh,
mind
you're so
walking. Yeah, I don't mind walking like 30 miles. I don't care. But hills, oh man, they just kill
oh
me.
my gosh,
Kill me.
that's so funny because I tell my friends this about you sometimes
Hmm.
because you're such a character. And
Oh.
one of my favorite stories to tell about you is the time that you and I, like 20 years ago now, went to
Hmm.
went to Portugal and Spain together,
Oh
and
yeah.
we drove. I forget which country we were in, but we drove like an hour in this rental car to go see
Mm.
some like castle. And as you know, they're
Hmm.
always on hills, right? And so we had
Yeah,
to
they are.
park in the parking lot, but then there was like a short walk up the hill to get to the entrance of the castle. Like the parking lot doesn't park right outside the
That was
front gate of
Sintra
the castle.
in
Yeah,
Lisbon.
that's what I thought. I thought it was Sintra. And
Yeah.
yes, you remember. And we parked and I got out of the car and to start the 5 or 10 minute walk up to the castle, and you did not get out of the car. And I was like, Lewis, what are you talking about? You're not, and you're like, I'm a smoker. I don't do uphill. I was like, that's what you said to me.
I
I'm
know.
a
Hey,
smoker. I don't do
I'm
uphill.
I'm trying to survive this thing here. I know my
Oh
own
my God. Oh
you
my
know,
God. And
vices.
so you literally didn't go to the castle. Like we drove an
I
hour there
did.
and
We
then we
did.
sat in the
We
parking
did
lot.
go there. We ended up going there. I think
It's so
we did
funny.
see it. It was the Centro one.
Yeah, but
Then
you didn't go up the hill. Did you go up the
it
hill?
must have been a different castle then, but we did do
Okay.
the Centro one. But I remember Centro had like you can drive up to a certain level, and then you got to park there, and then walk up another level.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it must have been another city that was like that. Yeah.
So funny. Yeah, so I whatever castle that was, I had to do it by myself, which is fine, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you drove all the way
I was
here
like, nah.
and you're just gonna
I
look
think
at
it's a
it from the
past
parking
life
lot."
thing with the hills. I just, it's a thing. And I quit smoking 2 years ago, so now it's not a smoking thing. It's just I really don't like them. I don't
Well,
like hills.
well,
So what you just
Diego,
did in Nepal is like punishment in my mind.
well,
That's what
so there were three of us that went to Nepal, and we each had like our own different strength and weakness with hiking.
mm,
Like
mhm,
Diego is very muscular and he's very strong, but he's heavy. He's like 200 pounds of like muscle, and so he hates
right.
going uphill. Like he hates
Mhm.
uphill.
I
He
do
can
too.
walk. He's a Marine, so he can walk on flat surface carrying 100 pounds for
Mhm.
miles, miles and miles and miles. But going up hills is his like nemesis. So he would
Well,
always,
that's me.
well, yeah, exactly, exactly. He would always complain when we would start going up hills. And then our friend, who the girl who went with us, she has really bad knees from again being in the Marine Corps, and like her knees
Right.
are shot. So for her, going downhill was so hard,
Mm.
and
Oh yeah.
she had to do figure eights. Like she couldn't
Oh
walk
wow.
straight down the trail. She had to do but she was so fast that even her
Mm.
figure eighting down the
She's like
path
a goat.
was this, was the same. Yeah, like was the same pace as me just walking straight down. Like
Wow.
because she walked so quickly that she could like figure eight at the same pace that it took me just to go straight down the mountain. So I was okay with uphill and I was okay with downhill, but my weakness is carrying weight. Like I'm
Oh,
not used to carry like I'm not a Marine, so I'm not used to
right.
carrying 100-pound packs. So for
Right.
me, it's like I can go up and down all day, but don't ask me to carry weight. So we each had our
It's
own
like I'll need a
strength and
porter for
weakness.
that. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I was the lucky one on this trip because my weakness was the only one that was addressed by
My
the trip,
goodness.
quarters. Yeah. Yeah. Hannah still had to go downhill. Diego still had to go uphill.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, there's an uphill thing. I think we should start like an I hate uphill club or something.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you guys it's kind of like, how people like canoe in just one
yeah.
direction? Like they get let off,
Mm-hmm.
they only go downstream and then they get picked
Mm.
up. This is like you guys start at the top, you'd get driven
Yeah,
to the top,
top is
you would
great.
only go
Yeah, absolutely.
downhill,
Well,
and
that's
then
what I
you
do
this
with
is like,
museums. I
what do you
I
mean?
take the elevator to the top floor and then I walk down.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Makes
my gosh, you're
sense.
so funny. You're so
It
funny.
makes sense. Why would I walk up and see the things? It's like extra effort. You take the elevator to the top floor and you start the exhibition process going down.
I mean, honestly, that's brilliant. That is a
Yeah.
brilliant solution
For
to,
workarounds,
yeah, yeah.
laziness.
It's a
Yeah.
workaround to working out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your
But I think
workout workaround.
now that you said that about Diego and he's a guy he's very much in shape, but muscle, fat, whatever, as long as you carry more weight on you, it's more effort on your heart, it's more effort
Yeah,
on your body in general. So no wonder it's like it irritates us.
yeah, yeah.
So
I totally
every
get
every
it.
yeah, every rock climber I know is like a buck 25, whether they're male or female. They're all very much gazelle built, very
Hmm.
tall and lanky. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it makes sense, it's when you're bulky, it's a real effort. It's not fun.
Right. Right. It's not,
So, but yeah,
it's extra weight to have to push up each
yeah,
step.
it's
So
extra
yeah, I
weight.
get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Well, you're onto
it's
something.
irritating. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you had that experience. I think it's as I get older, when I was younger, I would say I want to do this, I want to do that. When I get older, I guess as I get older, I learn to compromise, and I'm okay with not doing some things,
Hmm.
and dying without having to climb Pikey Peak is okay with me.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I
you
get
know,
it. Like, um, I still feel very young,
yeah,
dare I say, and I still have a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm for things. And so
you're built
for me,
different.
yeah, I guess. But so for me, like, I very much believe in like carpe diem, like do it now because you don't,
Seize the day. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, seize the day, do it now, travel now, but but that not just travel. For me, it's do everything now. Like,
Right.
um, I want to buy a game, buy the game today and play it today. Like,
That's great.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, just I don't wait until tomorrow, just because I don't, tomorrow is another exciting day that if I seize the day tomorrow, then I can have a really fun day tomorrow as well. Like, why would I put that off?
Well, it's also like some of these actors um, who basically get to pick and choose their jobs and the scripts they want to work on the projects or films or TV shows that they want to do. Most of them don't commit to a project that's 2-3 years down the line, because as most of them say, they may not want to do that film 2 years from now. They may want to do it today or 6 months
Right.
from now. But they just, their attitude towards things or towards the topic or the plot or the character might change. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's you might desire to do something today, and in a year from now it might be completely different. People's goals change as you age. The things that you wanted in your 20s are not the things that you want in your 40s. I'm looking at like freaking plates differently now with a
Ah,
special eye. Like what the hell? Why is that turning me on? Like the little I never used to look at this stuff.
that's
But
so
like
funny.
cookware and plateware and all this kind of dinnerware, all these things are just starting to be so attractive to me.
Ah,
I bought a
you're
Le
nesting.
Creuset. Yeah, it's like I'm a little more domestic. Bought this Le Creuset Dutch oven years ago, and
Ooh.
with my moves and stuff, I've always taken it with me. I love cooking. I love that thing, and it's something that I don't know. It just you start looking at things differently now.
Yeah.
So, for sure.
Well, given your love of cooking, my boyfriend Diego also loves to cook, and so for Christmas I got him a bunch of like cooking related Christmas gifts.
Uh huh.
But one of the ones that I got him that I don't know if you would be interested in is a hydroponics like grow kit, um, to grow
To grow
herbs,
tomatoes.
to grow fresh herbs, like for the
Oh,
kitchen. Like, so you can put mint and rosemary and thyme. It holds 12, so you can put 12 different spices or whatever
yeah. I
herbs, I
have
guess
a
it is.
very nice a big little balcony. I could put
Oh,
that
and you have
outside.
herbs out there.
No, but when you give me that, I could. When you
Well,
send it
so
to me.
the beauty of it is that it doesn't even need to be outside. Like, it has its
Oh, okay.
own UV light
Oh,
built
wow.
into the top, and then you don't have to water it either. That you put water in like in a reservoir. Um,
So
like
this is a kit you bought?
it's a I'll send you the link, but it's kind
Send
of
me the
like a
link.
kit. It's a machine. It's like a grower.
Okay.
It's like a grower
Like
machine,
an incubator or
like an
something.
incubator. Yeah. On the
Yeah.
top is
Little
a
greenhouse.
ultraviolet light. On the bottom is a reservoir for water, and you just put you don't there's no dirt. You just
Right.
put one like seed pod, or like one, I
Hmm.
guess, what do you call it? Like nutrient pod in every container, and then you just put whatever herb seeds you want. And so the pod that they give you has like nutrients in it, and
Hmm.
then that feeds whatever seeds you put in, and they grow. And like they're so anyway, so it's like fresh
Yeah,
herbs
that's exciting.
all year round, and you don't have to do anything. Like the UV light comes
Wow.
on for 12 hours and then goes off for 12 hours. Um,
Yeah,
so
send me the
it's
link.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was great. So like it's really nice for having, yeah, because here I live in Japan, and it's really hard to get American or like European herbs. Like here it's really hard. Like to get like rosemary, um,
Provence herbs.
oregano,
Yeah.
stuff like that. They just don't
Thyme.
have it. You want fresh ginger root, they got it.
Right. Mhm.
You want like some weird form of parsley, they got it.
Right.
you
Right.
know, but you want like thyme, not possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're screwed. Yeah.
So we have to just grow our own, basically.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cute. You're bringing
Yeah.
Western herbs to
Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah. But one other thing I wanted to tell you that was interesting about Nepal was that so we did our hike in the Himalayas, and
Uh-huh.
then we came back to Kathmandu, the capital
Hmm.
city, for a couple of days to do some sightseeing. And our tour guide told us that like there was a ton of traffic coming back into the
Uh-huh.
city, and people were dressed up in like really nice clothes, like really
Right.
beautiful clothes. And we're like, how? But they were all, everyone was going in a different direction on the side of the street, like in their beautiful
Uh-huh.
clothing. And we were like, how is everyone seem to be going to like a really fancy party, but they're all these fancy parties seem to be in different directions. We're like, what's going on? So
Yeah.
we asked our tour guide, and because like everyone here is pretty poor, so like,
Right.
but they're wearing these like elaborate outfits, and so we knew something special was happening. And so our tour guide said that in Nepal, every year the priests, the monks, choose like 5 or 6 um, days that are like that are what is the word, like fortuitous for weddings. So they choose
Oh,
5 or 6 days where the heavens tell them are like
these are
good
good days for weddings.
are
Yeah.
good days for to get married. And this
Wow.
year there was only one day.
Oh, wow.
So everybody in Nepal who wanted to get married, everyone got married on one day, and it was the day
So
that we
you
were there.
you and Diego got married, is this what you're
So,
telling me?
so we got married. No, but we saw so many
Weddings.
beautiful Nepalese weddings, like just along the side
Wow.
of the road, because people would have them and the doors would be open. And so we saw beautiful Nepalese weddings.
That's
And
beautiful.
then yeah, it was like so fortuitous, And then the
Mm.
next day we toured all these like UNESCO World Heritage, like, beautiful old temples.
Mhm.
And there
Mhm.
were a bunch of the couples, the newly married couples, in their wedding clothes doing photo
Oh,
shoots.
man, that's
And
so
so
cool.
I took pictures of these like gorgeous women in these elaborate traditional Nepalese bridal outfits on these 2,000-year-old temples. I just got behind the photographer and like snapped a
Oh,
couple of
wow.
pics.
You're like, "I'll take my own photo shoot, thank you very much."
So yeah, exactly. Like I was like I am like I was like I don't think they'll mind if I take a picture of them against this beautiful backdrop. So I have like 15 pictures of different brides and grooms
That's really
posing on
cool.
different temples. Oh yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was such a weird and such a fortuitous experience,
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know
it
what
was
that word means, but I'll look it up after we
oh,
hang
it
up.
means
I'm
lucky.
just
Such a
kidding.
lucky. Yeah. Such a lucky experience.
Oh, that's
Uh,
exciting. And what else? You went to Taiwan and some other
oh, we
places?
went to yeah, we went from Nepal, we went to Thailand for
Mm.
another. I was gone for 3 weeks, so I did like a week. Like we did one week in Nepal, and then we did 2 weeks in Thailand. But I did go to Taiwan. I would just got back from Taiwan yesterday. I went there just for 3 days, for New Year's Eve. But when I was in Thailand for those 2 weeks after
Mhm.
Nepal. it was super cool. We went all over. We saw some of these like really, so some of the really traditional temples, and then some of the new, more modern, like artistic temples that had
Yeah.
like Predator on them, and like the like Marvel comic book heroes painted on the inside of these beautiful temples. So like there were some modern ones where the artists who make these sacred temples are trying to obviously connect to a younger generation and keep some
Hmm.
of the elements, like keep a Buddha statue inside, but then instead of having traditional paintings of like Hindu things or Buddhist things, they have paintings of like Superman saving the Twin Towers that are just like
Hmm.
being bombed. You know, like just
I wish you did.
it was, yeah, I know. So it was cool. It was really cool. But then one thing did happen that was, I think you'll find interesting.
Hmm.
So when we wanted to go to the beaches in Thailand because they're famous and they're beautiful.
Hmm.
So we flew to one of these like islands to go to
Hmm.
one of the beach, and we had an Airbnb, and we had just arrived on this island, and we were taking a taxi to our
Hmm.
Airbnb, and it was like a big taxi. It was like one of those taxi vans where it's like four
No, I
seats
love
or more.
those.
And so I was on one side of the windows, and I was with Diego at the time, and he was on the other side of the windows. So he basically couldn't see what was happening out my window because
Hmm.
we were like four seats apart. And so what was happening outside my window was that we were driving down this road, and I saw this man beating a woman like
Oh my
badly,
God.
the shit out of her
You're
in the
kidding me.
middle of the street. No, 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 no. I watched
No.
it.
Lord.
He was punching her in the face, and then
No.
yeah, yeah, punching her over and over again in the face, and then
Were people
he
trying to
pushed.
stop him or?
No, no one did anything, and then he
Oh my
pushed her
God.
down, and
Oh,
she fell, and she got on all fours to try and stand up, and as she was on all fours trying to stand up, he kicked her in the back of the head,
that guy should
and
be, I mean,
she fell down
I don't
again.
want to, that's
And then
horrific.
and then after he kicks her in the back of the head and she falls down again, he gets down on the ground and he's punching her in the face
I mean, he's
while
trying to kill her.
he and her are laying on the ground, like rolling around in the ground. Yeah. I mean, like, so I saw this happening out my window, and I was like, I mean,
Did
I
you guys
was,
stop?
well, the taxi so I saw it happening. I was fixated on it to like kind of just watch and see what happened. And
Hmm.
then the taxi all of a sudden stopped like a few minutes down the road.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I was like, oh my gosh, I guess we're here. So I get out of the taxi and I start walking back up the road
Hmm.
to see if it had resolved or if it was still ongoing,
Hmm.
because just and so I could see that he was still on the ground punching her in the face.
Oh
And
my God.
I so like I at first I was just like walking down the road, back up the road just to check it out, and then I saw he was punching her still on the ground, and
Oh
so
Lord.
then I started running, like
I
running at
just
him.
can't believe no one around there
No one did
was
anything.
trying to stop him.
No one did anything. It was just me, and
That's horrific. That's the worst
I
part of it.
was still holding my luggage.
Mm.
I was
Mm.
holding my luggage because I was getting out of the taxi. So I had my backpack on my back, and I had one piece of
Mm.
luggage in my left hand. And I totally forgot. I didn't even tell Diego, who was a United States Marine, that
Yeah.
I just took
Shit.
off down the road running
You're
to
trying to
like
save
take
her.
care of this myself. And
Good.
so I was filled with like a hot rage because I had seen
Mm.
what he had done to her. And
Mm.
so I ran over to him, and I'm holding my luggage. So
When you're a doctor, you could help her too.
with
Yeah.
my one free hand and the
Man.
strength of like 100 men, I pull him up by his
Oh,
neck.
good.
I
Wow.
pull him up by his neck
Wow.
like he weighs nothing.
That's
And I look
amazing,
him in the
Kristen.
face, and then I throw him across the street.
Wow.
Like
Thank God.
literally, like he weighed nothing. And
That's
so then
those
I'm
adrenaline.
screaming at him in a language that he doesn't understand. I'm
That's
screaming at him
fantastic.
in English to like get the fuck off her, get the fuck off.
I can't believe you. And there were people around.
There were people around. Yeah, yeah, there were
Closer.
people around. just
And
watching
no one was
people, like
looking.
Thai
Everyone.
people watching. And so it
That's
just
really
tells
messed
you how
up.
common it is in their culture, in their country, that this happens. In the US,
Yeah.
it just tells you about the cultural differences, that it's acceptable there.
In the U.S., if it happened in public, no way.
Oh yeah, it would be. I mean,
I mean,
yes,
people would
anybody,
intervene. Yeah.
especially if it was a man beating up a woman,
Oh,
anyone is going to
in
intervene
a
in that,
half a
you know,
second. For that,
in a
for those
heartbeat.
things, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
So I'm screaming at him in English. He doesn't understand what I'm saying, but the
Mm.
message is clear.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
And it's good that it was a woman to show him, "Listen, you little
right. Yeah.
effer."
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, don't, like, yeah, exactly. Like, women are tough too.
Mhm,
And so he saw that it was, so once I threw him off of her, he saw that it was
mhm,
me, a woman,
mhm,
and
mhm.
holding luggage. So he I think he
You're
thinks
never drop
that
the luggage.
I'm
That's the worst
yeah, I
part.
never I never thought to drop it. So I think so
Wow.
he starts coming at me because he's like, "Oh, I
Are you
can take her."
freaking kidding me?
No, he starts like coming, advancing towards me.
This
And
guy
then
must have been on drugs or something.
all and I was like,
You were ready.
I was in a
You're like,
rage. I mean,
"Don't make me drop the Louis
I was
Vuitton guy."
unpredictable. I don't know what I would have done. I
Yeah.
would have hurt him. I would have probably gotten hurt, but I would have hurt him back.
And where was Diego?
So yeah, so all of a sudden Diego comes running down the street like he didn't even know
Mm,
I'd left. I didn't even tell him what was going on. I
right.
didn't tell him I was leaving. He just hears me screaming at somebody,
Wow.
and so he follows my screams,
Mm.
and then he jumps at the guy, like kind of like
Oh,
jumps and
wow.
kicks in the
Yeah.
air, and so the guy
Mhm,
backs up, and
mhm.
then and so now he backs up, but then he bends over and he picks up two rocks as
Oh,
if to like
man.
throw at our heads. And
Mhm,
Diego, who hadn't seen him beat her up, Diego has no
mhm.
he has no idea what's happened. So he
Wow.
doesn't have that hot rage in him
Contacts. Yeah. Right.
that I have in me. I have the
Mhm.
rage. And so he
Right.
is being cautious with the rocks. He's like, Kristen,
Right.
he's like, he has rocks, back up. He might throw them. So he's
Mhm,
being the voice of reason. And
mhm.
I do the opposite. I
You're like,
am like,
"No, man.
I,
Seize the day."
I'm like, this man is going down. So
Yeah.
I scream at the top of my lungs and I charge him.
Good job.
And he
I love it.
this crazy tourist holding her luggage screaming, and so he just gets scared. The whole thing is just too much for him. I'm causing a
Yeah.
scene at this point. I'm a tourist. We're kind of a protected class.
And
I'm
what's
obviously
going on with the girl?
crazy.
She's, like,
She's on the
on the
ground
floor?
still. She's still
Oh,
on the
man.
ground. Like, so he drops the rocks and he runs away. Between me and Diego,
You
he
knew it was
he's like
good for him.
he's like this is getting to be too much. So he drops the rocks and he goes away. And so then in that moment, I remember that I'm a doctor, and I go
Yeah,
over and
yeah,
I check on the woman because at the first, I mean, I forgot everything. I just was like, it was like those
you
primal
were the Hulk.
instincts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I remember that I'm a doctor and I go over to her and first of all I hug her because she's
Yeah.
just gotten up off the ground and she's like, kind of teetering around and I hug her because I honestly needed it too.
Well,
Like I
yeah,
needed the hug
absolutely.
and I'm sure she needed the hug.
It's
So
a
it was for
you're
both of our
trauma
sakes.
bonded. Yeah,
Yeah. And then I checked her out. I made sure that she was okay. And then she said that she was going to call the police and she said that it was her husband.
oh,
So, yeah, I
that's
said, "All
so
right,
sad
well,
because that story's not gonna end there. It's like she's gonna have
no,
to go home at some point, and
no."
when
I
the
mean,
assailant is your husband,
yeah,
that's not good.
I mean, I feel so bad for women who are trapped in these
Yep.
marriages because of finances and culture and. I mean, at least she fought back though. Like she was
Good.
doing her best to hit him back. I mean, he was just so
Yeah.
much stronger than
It's
she was. But she was doing her
she's
so at least she wasn't, like,
she's good. She
just
stood up for
taking it.
herself.
Yeah, she was standing up for herself the best that she could, and
And
I
sadly, it's probably
appreciate
not the
that.
first time that she's been hit by this
No,
guy,
no.
you know?
No, the first time would never be in a street, like, the
No.
first time's always gonna be private, I would
What a
imagine,
piece of shit.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
a piece of shit of a
What a
guy.
piece of
I mean,
shit.
that's and those are the type of guys that give guys a bad name too. It's
Yeah, no, they do, and then I went back to the taxi because I still had one other piece of luggage in the trunk. So I went back to the taxi, and the taxi driver, he doesn't speak much English, but
hmm
he like high five, he like put or not high five me. He put his thumbs up. He gave me like the like double thumbs up, and he was like really happy that I did that. And
Yeah,
I was
but you
like,
know what, Mr. Taxi Guy, why didn't you stop your taxi and do that?
that's yeah, that's exactly what I
Why'd
said.
you have
I
a
said, I
tourist,
was like,
female
thank
tourist
you.
do that? Yeah, it's like
Exactly. I was like, but next time you should have helped. Like, or like next
yeah,
time you help,
and the
you
other
know,
probably tens of people that were around them.
that we're
Um,
watching. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people just choose to uh not be a part of their business, their story. They just don't, they want to go around living in denial that things like this happen every day, and in a lot of places more than others. Um,
I think it's hard to I also understand I also can appreciate the cultural differences that in their culture, a man beating a woman, especially if it's your wife, it probably isn't that uncommon. It's probably like I mean, and so the fact that people saw it and did nothing,
yeah,
it just is a testament to how commonplace it and how accepted it is. And so I think like, you have to change the entire if you want to change the culture, you have to like everyone needs to start thinking in a more
right.
modern way, and like women need to start reporting it more, men need to be start punished by the law, like, they need to be punished
It
by
all
the law
starts with the
more.
law. Yeah, there needs to
Yeah,
be the laws
exactly.
need to
Like
be
a
in
woman
place.
can't stand up for herself,
Right.
like she's not going to grow 50 pounds of muscles overnight. Like all she can do is just report him after, and then the law handles it. The law punishes him, and or she can try and leave him, but it's really hard if you don't have any finances, you know.
You were a superhero. You were
Oh,
her
thanks.
savior, and I think you should pat yourself on the back. That's a fantastic story, Kristen. You saved someone's life. Life. I mean, she could have been killed.
Thank you. Yeah,
The
thank
guy
you.
didn't seem to be stopping.
N- yeah, thank you. Like I don't know what would have happened. I don't know if she would have been killed this time or not killed. I don't know. But at first, it was kind of a jarring experience. I've never been in a physical fight before in my
Yeah.
life. Like that was the first time I've ever fought someone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was kind of jarring, but it kind like over the next day or two, as I kind of like, I guess processed it is the word, but got used to it,
Yeah.
it quickly went from like one of my worst memories of my trip to one of my favorite memories of my trip
Oh, you
because
saved someone's life. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I do feel a little bit like like the hero who gets to come in, like in a situation where like it's so obviously an injustice is happening,
Yep.
and then like, I didn't get hurt, so there was like I didn't, so it turned out really well.
So did the
So in
cops come,
retrospect,
or
I don't
how did it
know.
end?
We
You just
left
went
like
back to
once
yeah.
once she said that she was like once I made sure that she was okay, and she said that she was going to call the police. We didn't stay for the police to
Right.
come. Also, like our taxi was there, and like we kind of wanted to start our vacation, and we didn't.
Man, what a start.
Yeah, I mean, and there were plenty of witnesses who saw what happened.
Did
So,
they come around now that he was gone,
no, they
or they
they were all it happened in front of a restaurant, and there were people just
man
sitting at the tables outside eating. So who
watching
didn't who
watching it?
didn't do yeah, who didn't do
So
anything, and
gross.
servers who didn't do anything. So they all saw what happened, and so they can all be witnesses.
Oh man, that's so
Yeah.
disturbing. It's really gross. I think there's a shock factor. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, where people it takes a little bit for people to react,
Yeah.
but then it also, there's I forgot what psychological term there is, but it happened in New York to this female who was being stalked, and all these neighbors heard it and saw it from their windows, and everyone thought that someone else would, come in
Yeah.
and call the cops, and at the end of the day, no one called the cops because it
Yeah.
was like the if there's an actual term for it when you think, oh, someone will handle it, and then no one does,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah. I
everyone
know.
thinks
I know.
someone else will come in, step in, and take responsibility and help. Um, but yeah, maybe that's kind of like the group think idea.
Hmm.
It just listen, when trauma and those kind of things happen, there is a moment where it's shocking, and it takes one brave soul, one hero like you, to come in and take control of the situation. Then others will follow. Um, but it's always that kind of person that's necessary to break that, because we turn stupid in groups, and people don't want to get involved with drama. But this was a blaring thing. I mean, he was trying to kill her. I mean, if no one stepped in like you did, she probably
Well,
she probably would have got killed.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's beat her before and she hasn't died, but I don't know.
He
Like,
said
who
he
knows?
was kicking her. I mean, this is
Yeah, he was
you
kicking.
gotta
He
be
kicked her in the
careful.
head. But I do think that I mean, I think that you're right in the sense. I think that you're right. Like when I was in the Peace Corps, you know, we were there and we kind of served as an example in some ways to the people around us. Like for example, brushing our teeth. Like a lot of people in
Yeah.
Peru don't brush their teeth and don't brush their teeth regularly. And sometimes, like in some of the other areas that the Peace Corps works in, like in Africa, people don't brush their teeth on a regular basis. And so, one
Hmm.
of the examples that we heard about during training was that there was one volunteer who brushed his teeth twice a day, and so
Right.
like the only water in the town was like the well in the middle of the town, and so twice a
Right.
day he would go there and brush his teeth, and so the town for 2 years saw him brushing his teeth twice a day, and so some of them started to also brush their teeth because they saw him doing it
Wow.
all the time, and so they're like, you know what, it's what, and then they liked how it felt, how it felt, and
Yeah.
so like then they started doing it, and so then that kind of normalized it for others. So like you
Takes leaders.
can
Takes leaders.
it just
Mhm.
takes people setting an example, and just
Right.
the more people you have, that example just kind of solidifies more and more. And so, I'm hoping that like someone else will stand up for someone, or, the person that I stood up for, she'll stand up for someone else next time, or, something like that. And just slowly over time, um, the public opinion changes.
Changes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this effect, or this theory, it's called a social psychological theory, the bystander effect, or better known as diffusion of responsibility.
Hmm.
And that um, that incident, that murder, basically, that I was mentioning, was the murder of Kitty Genovese in 1964 in New York. This is when 38 bystanders saw or
Wow.
heard the attack without coming to her assistance or calling the police. Much research, most in mostly in psychology research laboratories, has focused on increasingly varied factors such as the number of bystanders, ambiguity, group cohesiveness, and diffusion of responsibility that reinforces mutual denial. If a single individual is asked to complete a task alone, the sense of responsibility will be strong and there will be a positive response. However, if a group is required to complete a task together, each individual in the group will have a weak sense of responsibility and will often shrink back in the face of difficulties or responsibilities.
Yeah.
We turn
Yeah.
dumb when we're in group.
Well, so I've noticed this as well. When I send an email, if I send an email and I put like three or four people on the
Yeah, no
CC
one
on
answers.
the
Yeah,
line, no one answers because everyone
right.
thinks the other person will handle it. So I have
Yeah,
learned to stop doing that. I do not
yeah,
put multiple people. I will send if I need information, like I'll send the same email separately to three separate people.
yeah.
But I won't put multiple people in the two line anymore because of
Yeah,
that group
I
think,
I have that. I mean,
bystander
I do
theory.
that. I do that in emails. If they don't say my name, I don't answer.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
If it's
Exactly.
because, yeah, it's just it just I don't know. It just doesn't
But like even
feel
like in
normal
the
for me.
past, I'll have like sent an email to three different doctors, and I'll be like, and I'll address it to Doctor, Doctor Smith, comma Doctor So and So, comma Doctor So and So. Could one of you please let me know, like, could one of you review these results and please let me know your thoughts? Whatever, I'll do
Hmm.
that thing. Like, can one of you please get back to me? And no one will, because they'll all assume that someone else is going to do it, um,
God,
even though it's
that's
addressed to them. So now I just send separate emails. And then,
yeah,
if two people
and it works.
respond,
Work around.
then, if two people respond and the third doesn't, then yeah, I get the answer twice, but at least I get the answer.
But I mean, think about that. You could have 38 people around you,
You know what?
and
I'm not
everyone.
even surprised. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like today, perfect example. Today, I live I live on an island called Okinawa, and I was going for a run along the seawall, along the ocean, and there was
Hmm.
a homeless Japanese man, laying on the ground in front of the seawall with a
Hmm.
plastic bag over his head.
Mm.
And
Oh my God.
and I know, and there was a whole bunch of people like just hanging out on the seawall. No one, no one was looking at him. No one was talking. Like, no one was looked
Hmm.
concerned. No one, everyone was ignoring him. And
Wow.
because everyone was ignoring him, I kind of glanced down and I kept, like, I saw him as I ran by, but I was like, okay, there's no cause for alarm because no one else is alarmed. And
Yeah, like you
so then
think,
I
oh,
was,
they know him. He does this all the time. You
well,
start
clearly homeless. So I don't think I don't think any of them know him. I
right.
think he's homeless, and he's not there on the seawall a lot because I run there all the time. But still, I was like, okay, like if this man was dying or something, if he was in danger, I'm sure people would be helping. So I didn't even think about it. I saw that his face was, I saw that he was had covered himself in a plastic bag and was breathing into it, or at least it was around his face.
Wow.
So I just ran right past him. But then, like 30 seconds after I passed him, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, that guy had a plastic bag over his face. Like, maybe his intention is to keep warm because it's like a little cold here today, by putting
Hmm.
this plastic bag around his face. But like, maybe he's also
I
trying to
mean,
commit suicide.
probably, and suicide's a big thing in Japan, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is actually. And so I ran. So I didn't even think about that. That it's a big deal. It's a big thing here. So I was like, what the fuck? And so I turned around, and still no one was around him. No one was looking concerned. There was like 7 or 8 people within 5 feet of him, not even looking at him. They were all just like sitting on the seawall, like drinking their coffee or whatever. So I ran back, and I was like,
God, you're
oh, and
just
I was like,
you need a cape.
I mean, I was like, what do I do? Like, I guess then I had this, like, in the 30 seconds it took me to run back, I was like, my plan is this, to like, if he really is suffocating, to like tear a hole in the bag and then like see if he needs CPR, basically. That was my plan. But I didn't need to do anything because when I got there, I saw that intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know, there was a tear in the bag around his waist,
Mm.
so there was air getting into the bag. It was his whole body was in this bag, this
Wow.
like
Yeah.
plastic
That's,
bag. I don't know how he got such a large plastic bag, but there was a tear at the waist. So I could see that there was
was he
airflow.
playing with it? I mean, what
No,
was it? What do you think?
he was sleeping inside of it.
Oh
I mean,
man.
I wasn't sure if he was. I mean, at the time when I first ran by, I wasn't sure if he was sleeping or if he was committing suicide. But he
I think
wasn't
modern
moving inside the
society
bag.
has to deal with. We really have to confront mental health issues, and it's not just something that's very much an American thing, even though it's very prevalent now. But it's global.
Yeah.
There's mental health issues,
Oh yeah.
stress levels. There was kind of like an article that I perused about how Tokyo is one of the biggest cities in the world, and there's tons of people, but depression and loneliness is becoming an epidemic. People are staying in more. They're always online. There's a very little social physical interaction. Everything's kind of virtual, and I think if we keep living our lives and going against the grain. I think COVID taught us this, a good lesson of how we need social interaction. We need energy from other people, and we need to have a sense of community. That's another reason why I started this podcast, is to create that sense of community, connect with people, and connect with ideas. Um, you know, our modern living, and now with AI and all this crazy stuff that's going to come down the pipeline, it's taken us away from our human nature, of connecting with each other and with nature
Yeah.
and
There's
with
a really
spirituality. I mean, we have to go back to
yeah.
basics here.
Yeah, you have to feel connected to something. Um,
Right.
I don't feel connected to any religion, so I don't have that, but I feel connected to nature,
The world.
and I
Yeah,
feel connected to other people. And
exactly.
like to like, I have a community here.
Some people only
Uh,
feel connected to money and material things, and when that goes
yeah.
away, they have no purpose in life, and bad things happen. So,
Yeah. There's a good Netflix series that I just finished watching called
hmm
Man on the Inside. It's a
hmm
really cute series. It's with Ted Danson, so the guy
hmm
from Cheers. But basically, like he's a widower and kind of lonely and kind of gets becomes reclusive. But then his daughter challenges him to try something new, and so
mm,
he sees in the newspaper that a private like that a PI, a private investigator, needs to hire is looking to hire like um, someone in their 70s or 80s
yeah.
for a job. And so he goes and he applies for this job. And because he simply has a cell phone and knows how to use it, he
Mm,
gets the job because no one
wow,
else in their 70s or 80s had a cell phone and knew how to use it.
that's hilarious.
So then he goes into a nursing home as like a undercover to like figure out who's stealing
Right.
jewelry in this nursing home. But the whole point of the show is community, that
Yeah.
when your wife dies, when like when you retire, you need to replace that with other people and
Oh yeah.
activities, re-engage with life. And it's a really like sweet, warm-hearted series, but it reinforces that exact premise.
Yeah, and COVID taught us that, or taught me that at least. That's what my takeaway was, is that feeling disconnected, being withdrawn, not being with the people that you love and that make you feel great is a very negative thing, and it impacts your physical and mental health. So,
Mm.
and I think a lot of these, without going too much into like all the news headlines that are coming out of the U.S. with the assassination of Brian Thompson, um, and all these horrific things going on during New Year's in New Orleans. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, I
Um,
did.
these are all problems, I think, that come from this lack of sense of cohesion and community, and people just feel very lost and very, and it just, I feel that it I feel like a lot of these mental health issues could get resolved earlier, but we're not doing it at a personal level, and we're not doing it at a, kind of like governmental level either. So it's like the society is split between your private family and then the public domain, and neither one is addressing these issues. We're just kind of saying, prayers and thoughts and for the victims, and we're not addressing all the things that lead up to causing these people to break down and do these horrific acts. It's
Yeah, it's
they're not
really hard.
crazy, they're sick. Most of
Yeah.
them, or they're just plain evil. But we need to address that before it gets out of control. It's like,
Yeah, it's really hard to address it. Like I don't even know
yeah,
how one would go about doing that, because it's so multifactorial. Like They feel isolated. That's probably the biggest. They feel
That's a
isolated,
big one. Yeah.
but they some of these people live with their parents or live with their children or their spouses. Like they're not all, but they live with people, but they still don't connect to them. You
But
know.
some of them have, most of them don't, like people who break down or do these horrific crimes. I don't feel like they just one day wake up and do this. I feel like there there's signs that people need to look out for if they, like the Luigi Mangione suspect.
Mhm.
He walked basically stopped talking to his family for 6 months, and his mother had to put a missing persons report in. So that's a big red flag. At least she tried to find him. A lot of people would probably just kind of stop. Um, but when things like that happen, is you need to have a good support system, and isolating yourself is always a bad sign. Nothing good's going to happen to you or anyone else from that. So um,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, I think sense of community and checking in on your loved ones and making sure that everyone's okay is uh, is good for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there is like some amount of personal responsibility where,
Yeah,
like we kind of have to look out for ourselves, and we have to take responsibility for our own happiness,
true.
and we need to like be proactive, I think, in
Hmm.
doing things that make us happy, whether it be, sitting by the water and having a cup of tea every day, or, you know, joining a like, joining a club where you, I don't know, go hiking or play board games. I mean, there's
Yeah,
lots
you
of
gotta
ways
have
that people
joy.
can. You have to try. You have to try. You have to reach out. You have to join a community. It can even be an online community,
Right.
if you like being anonymous, or if you like staying home, but at least you feel connected to other people. Um, and then if you feel yourself start spiraling down the drain, reaching out to like a healthcare professional and saying, I need help, or
Yeah.
reaching out or telling your mother or your father, being like, hey, I really think I'm spiraling. I really need some help. Can you help
Yeah.
me get a doctor's appointment? Like reaching out for help when you feel like you need it. I mean, this is obviously in a perfect world, but
Hmm.
there's a part, you kind of have to take responsibility also for your own health, both mental and
Hmm.
physical, um, to some degree.
So what makes these people break that they can justify committing these heinous crimes?
Um, I don't know. It's
It's
such a hard question.
yeah. I
There's
think
like,
there's personally, I think there's so many different elements, from traumas to personality disorders to maybe chemical
yeah,
imbalances, right?
yeah. Like, I was reading, there's, oh yeah, in South Korea, there's been a series of mass murders.
Yeah.
Um, they're called social killings or something like that, social massacres. But what
Mm,
happens is someone like there's a man loses money and like
mm.
loses some investment money, and then he goes out and he stabs 10 strangers in the street.
Oh my God.
That
Jeez.
happened. And then like that happened like 2 weeks ago. And then like a boy fails an exam at school and then goes out and mows people down with his car
So for
on
their
a
own failures, they have to take it out on innocent people. I
on
don't
innocent
understand that.
people. Yeah, like exactly. And it can be like it can be something. It's not terrorism, because for us, group killings are usually terrorism related or
Right.
school shootings, bullying. But these are nothing like that. These are adults who just lost money on the stock market, or a kid or like a teenager who failed a test. Like they're like, for us, they would be, I mean, they could be, um, just a blip just a blip in your
Right.
life. For these people in these situations, because of how their culture works or their school system works or whatever, I guess it's a bigger
Or
failure,
their personal circumstances. Maybe it's a
or their
big
personal
loss for them.
circumstances, or whatever in their mind makes these huge tragedies, and then they go out and they take out their rage on
Yeah.
strangers.
Yeah, you know what?
Um,
Just because you got a B on your test doesn't give you the right to kill people. It's like this has just gotten at this is just crazy. You can't even describe these things anymore. They feel like they'd be too fake for a movie, you know.
yeah, like too
Um,
cheap. Yeah, exactly. Like that's not a good enough reason to go out and kill 10 people
yeah,
with
like
your car
that wouldn't happen.
because you
That's
failed
not
to
real.
test. Like,
Yeah.
but so in the article that I was reading, the president of South Korea was saying that he vows to stop these killings, but acknowledges that it's like going to be pretty hard because these killings, the motivations behind them are so multifactorial. Like
Mm.
there's so many different reasons, there's so many different areas. Like it's not like, these people may not even be mentally unhealthy. Like they may not even be mentally unwell. They might be sane, but they just might be so frustrated at the system that one failed exam means that they can no longer like pursue the career that
Yeah,
they
the
wanted to
pressure
have.
of society,
Yeah.
basically says you're done. So, there's no way. Yeah, it's hopelessness is what it is. It's they might
Yeah, it's
feel
hopelessness. That's a good point. That's the word. They feel hopeless. Um, and
so that's the thing. So society also needs to find a solution to, saying, okay, you got to let the pressure up because you know that not everyone's going to be. Life first thing is not perfect. Humans aren't perfect. So there
mhm,
always needs to be, a plan B, C for people that if they don't make it into a certain program or live a certain life that everyone tries to achieve, it's still okay. You don't need to
right.
go around, you know, committing all these heinous crimes because you didn't get the life that you wanted.
Right, right. In South Korea, it sounds like that would actually be some sort of a solution, like would actually be a solution, like lessening up the reins on what it takes, like making one failed exam not the end of your scholastic career,
Exactly.
stuff
Yeah.
like that, giving people second chances, or having a system that
Other
enables
paths forward,
chances.
yeah, to live their,
Yeah,
it's a successful, different type of success, but still a
yeah,
successful life. Yeah.
yeah.
I
So,
think I think that's a good thing in Western society, or at least the US. You kind of learn that failing isn't failing. Failing is not trying. And that's kind of beaten down to us in the sense, and that's why I think the entrepreneurial spirit in the U.S. is very strong because failing is not doing and not trying, and I see that from living in Europe, having lived in Europe, is a lot of Europeans. I think the younger generation now takes more chances, they take more risks. But
hmm
before it was like, oh no, I'm not going to invest in anything, or I've got to just try to be a government worker and get tenure because I'm not going to risk everything, Where I
hmm
think the American society is all about gambling and taking chances and getting a big payoff at the end.
hmm
Um, and with that also comes a lot of tragedies because then you have absolutely no safety net. But
hmm
it does spearhead a lot of these entrepreneurial projects and companies and ideas.
hmm
So
yeah,
it's like you're not
it
a
does.
failure because you bankrupted three companies. You're a failure because you didn't get up from the sofa and tried to start three companies.
Well, and then we went to Taipei, the capital of Taiwan,
Mm-hmm.
for 3 days over New Year's Eve, because they have
What did
like
you just save? What did you do here? Did you save like
nothing. I
someone from a
saved
burning
nobody.
house?
I
Oh,
I got a foot rub.
you were on
That's what
vacation
I
from your here from being a
did.
hero in other
I know,
places.
I
You're
got
like,
a
yeah,
foot rub. I saved no one.
even even caped superheroes need a vacation.
Need a day off. But to be fair, no one needs to be saved. Um,
You were on
but
call, but it didn't happen.
yeah, I know. Um, but yeah, it was fun. Like there's a humongous skyscraper called Taipei 101 that at
Mm.
one point was the tallest skyscraper in the world, but now it no longer is and hasn't been for decades. But it's still really, really tall. And they do a really impressive firework display off the building. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like a 360-degree firework display from the
My
top of the
mind.
building to the bottom of the building. And the fireworks like shoot out horizontally and like rotate around the building, and it's very impressive. And so we flew there
Really
to
cool. So this is the first Christmas where it just it was very Christmassy, and we got, it was great. The thing is, I also spent it away, but still had it was still with family. It's just in different venues. I went to a campground. I felt very very Dr. Kristen.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, we rented like a little cabin. Had
Of course
had
you
a
did.
kitchen and
No.
like a table, and it was nice. A little patio. We were lucky because it wasn't too cold that week in
Mhm.
Strasbourg. Um,
Wow, that sounds amazing.
it
And
was
wait, did you
cool.
say that
Yeah.
you had COVID? You had COVID.
Welcome to the podcast, the aging queen. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh my gosh, that is
I know.
insane.
Insane,
Oh my,
insane. So I'm so glad you can join us today, and we'll wrap it up. I think the society, the world, everyone thanks you for being a
oh,
hero.
oh,
And
thank you. You're so sweet.
no, I think that's something you should pat yourself on the back. It's admirable. A lot of people just don't want to get involved with drama, and you took the lead on helping someone. So congratulations. We'll talk again. Thank you again for joining me on today's show. You are the first show and the first
Woohoo!
guest in 2025.
Excellent.
So, yeah, we'll
Yes.
talk again. Thank you, Dr. Kristen.
Okay. All right. Good night, Lewis.
Good night. If you or someone you know are in crisis and need help, please reach out to a caring professional at SAMHSA's National Helpline by calling 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. Or you can simply text 988 on your phone. More information can be found by going to findtreatment.gov. That's findtreatment.gov. The information provided on this podcast are opinions and are for educational and entertainment purposes only, and does not substitute professional medical advice. Consult a medical professional or healthcare provider to seek medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.